What's up, YouTube? This is Tien bringing you a new build guide. This is going to be our Ellie hit Scion, and I have a clip of me doing a Deathless Uber Elder in the background, and just going to talk over what I think makes the build good, and if you should try it, especially if you want to try it in this upcoming Flashback League here in Incursion. Might be one of the last times to try Ellie hit. I think it's really, really strong. Might actually get nerfed here pretty soon. At least that's what a lot of people seem to think. The build itself uses the newly revamped Ellie hit, which is a skill gem that does fire, lightning, and cold damage. But we use the combat focus threshold jewels in order to make it only choose fire. So you can see here my character is only shooting fire arrows out of her bow. And by making it only select fire, we can kind of convert the other elements of damage into fire, and that kind of gives us a lot more damage, base damage on the ability. And why that base damage is important is that all of your increases and more multipliers that you get from your gear will basically just work on that huge amount of base damage. We actually don't even go crit with this build, use Resolute Technique. And to that end, we use a lot of defensive keystones. We have Resolute Technique, Phase Acrobatics, we use Valpact, Acrobatics as well, and then Avatar of Fire, which isn't defensive, but we just pick up a lot of keystones with the build. I think we even pick up Point Blank with the build. And so I guess why Resolute Technique is a good defensive mechanic is we choose the Slayer and the Raider sub-ascendancies. I think Slayer is the most important one for that overleech. I mentioned this in the written build guide, which you will find in the description below, but we choose a lot of, you can choose a lot of different things for your second sub-ascendancy. So you could do Elementalist maybe if you don't want to deal with reflect maps and you want like an easier mapping experience. You could choose Pathfinder if you really like the flask uptime. A player who popularized a version of this build named Uberdan uses a version that has Pathfinder and then 2 Quicksilvers for this particular fight. For this fight in general, I use Combs Roots just so we don't get slowed by the Elder in this fight. But when I show you my character later, I actually use 7 League Steps just so I can move around and map a little bit faster. We don't use Frostferno or Zophs with this build, so it's a kind of a cheaper version of the build. It does use 2 different 6-links though, so I have one 6-link for my single target in a Chin Soul, and then one 6-link in a Quill Rain for my mapping. If you didn't want to do that, you could actually just switch it yourself to do gem swap in the same bow. I think the damage is good enough to where you could use a Chin Soul and just gem swap around in order to get your greater multiple projectiles in there. So I guess I'll hop into game real quick and just show you guys the character. And so here's our character, and here are the gear pieces. Here we have the Quill Rain, a 6-link, and then a Chin Soul 6-link. I just use any rare helm for triple balancing my resistances, which is important for the Wise Oak. So I have all my resistances exactly at 75, which gives you damage penetration and the reduced damage taken of each element. My particular helm enchant doesn't really matter. It's the Blood Rage. It gives you increased attack speed. You can use any of the elemental hit ones. The rest is just a bunch of uniques. We used Yoke of Suffering, Combs Heart, Pyre Ring to convert 40% of your cold to fire. This ring here converts 40% of your lightning to cold, and that works for your base damages here. So you can see here my sheet DPS is 96,000. If I were to take this off, I'd lose a lot of my sheet DPS because I'm no longer converting the cold. Here are Tomb Fists. These ones are corrupted with crit strike chance. I use Resolute Technique, so I don't even need the crit strike chance. A better corruption might be like Elemental Weakness or something like that. A belt with like kind of mediocre resistances that I'm using again just to balance the Wise Oak. So there's a lot of wiggle room with the build. Yeah, our quiver doesn't even have resistances on it. Optimally, I think I would like to have a quiver that has pierce on it. But here's my swap here. So my gems are the elemental hit setup, which will kind of vary depending on how you want to do your map clearing or your single target. And just find that out in the guide. And then I do a cast when damage taken, Blood Rage Immortal Call. And I know this question is going to come up, but the Blood Rage Immortal Call is used specifically to make sure that you stop taking damage over time recently. And the gem needs to be in this order. So your Blood Rage needs to get triggered before your Immortal Call. So if for whatever reason I swapped the order of this, it would cast Immortal Call first and then Blood Rage second, and I wouldn't get the stopped damage over time. I would have to wait until the Blood Rage ends naturally. We use a Val Cold Snap here to apply a freeze on the enemy, or a chill on the enemy. And it's a cast when damage taken, so it just casts the non-Val version. But when you need that chill on demand, you can use the Val Cold Snap to do that. Here I have Blink Arrow and Faster Attacks, just a very common mobility setup. And then because you're using basically no other links, I don't have unset rings, I don't have a boots with any sockets. This is basically all you work with. Really simple build here. When I do put on the 7 league steps to do mapping, I have a very simple Val Grace, Val Haste setup that I link with increased duration efficacy that just allows me to speed through the map a little bit faster. And what's nice is I'm still triple balanced. These boots don't give you any kind of resistances. So my Wise Oak still gets all of the value there. Anyways, that's it for this video. Definitely check out that full written guide if you guys want to check out the LE hit setup, and I will catch you guys in the next video.